Are you struggling for consistency in your sim racing? Does your iRating look like a roller coaster? If so, we have good news for you. The way to get more consistent is to first understand what you're doing differently than the professionals. And VRS is the answer. With our competitive subscription, you will have the telemetry, setups, tutorials, and everything else you need to fully analyze your driving. Our data packs and the ability to compare your driving with the best in the world will show you exactly where to adjust your inputs, change your driving line, and shave seconds off of your lap times. And our powerful and precise Direct Force Pro wheelbase and precision pedals are being used by some of the world's best drivers. All these champions agree that VRS hardware is not just the best on the market, it's also priced well below the competition. So if you're looking to upgrade to direct drive and the best pedals in sim racing, VRS is your answer. If you want to get better, get faster, and make it happen sooner rather than later, you owe it to yourself to find out why so many people are switching to VRS. You'll be so glad that you did. Visit www.virtualracingschool.com and learn why the best use VRS.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Ray Esports Racing League's 6th season, the Summer Tour, presented by Spec Racer Sports, Alliance Autosport, and Grassroots Motorsports Magazine here on Apex Racing TV. And over the course of our 9-week regular season and then the winner-take-all runoffs, we'll bring you some of the best racing action in 3 different classes well known to club racers here in the United States: Spec Miata, Spec Racer Ford, and Formula 4. I'm Greg Ginsburg, along with Tim Cox in the commentary booth, and Dennis Branch, as always, in the virtual production trailer. And it's week 8, and this week we find ourselves in the California wine country and scenic Sonoma Raceway. In its 55th year of operation, this 2.5-mile, 12-turn circuit nestled into the mountains of Sears Point has almost 160 feet of elevation change from its lowest point to its highest, and in combination with its short straights and lack of heavy braking zones, passing tonight will certainly be at a premium for our Spec Racer Ford and Formula 4 racers. And so, as we do each week, tonight we're going to feature 2 20-minute sprint races. First up are going to be those Spec Racer Fords with their final race of our regular season, and then the Formula 4 drivers will take to the track, and each will battle for supremacy in 20-minute sprint races. And don't you fear, we've got one last regular season Spec Miata race. It will take place during next week's finale at beautiful Virginia International Raceway. And so, Tim, good evening and welcome to beautiful Sears Point, named after Franklin Sears, who first settled the area in 1851, and with his father-in-law he later acquired 15,000 acres, including what is now Sonoma Raceway.
So Greg, I think this circuit first came back into my knowledge during my misspent youth on Gran Turismo 4, I believe it was, and it's got a national circuit vibes in its narrow twistiness, but of course home to plenty of international non-domestic series, namely the World Touring Car Championship.
That's right.
It heads here, of course, IndyCar, more known, and it's transformed a lot since its late 1980s sleepy road course into one of the busiest motor facilities in the whole of the USA.
Absolutely, and we'll see here as we follow some of the drivers around as they're out for their qualifying session now, their 15-minute qualifying session, is that not only is it a road race course, but as we watch, see some of these cars coming down into turn 1, like Jordy Fike and Greg Mack, who we saw get together at Barber last week, there is a big tower along the back straight where there is an active drag strip in use here at Sonoma Raceway. A matter of fact, a good portion of that drag strip makes up portions of the road course as well. And so, yes, it always gets a lot of action. Of course, up until I think around 2 years ago, NASCAR was here every year. One of its 2 road course races on a much more limited portion of Sonoma Raceway than what we'll see here tonight. Of course, this version of the course, Tim, is actually the version that was used for all road racing events at Sonoma up until 1997, and it has changed somewhat. There have been some modifications that IndyCar, for example, uses, that they don't necessarily use the full hairpin at the end of the track, where we just saw, I think, John Vogel come through, and also as they come out of the carousel and up towards turn 7, where we see Joaquin Effinger going right now, there is a slightly different way to get into that complex that IndyCar and some of the other organizations use, rather than what we have here tonight for Ray Esports Racing League.
And the good thing about this compared to Barber, not that we didn't see overtaking last week at Barber, is that there's going to be plenty of overtaking opportunities around here, and this circuit just invokes close racing.
It does.
I absolutely love this place. Outside of, you know, the standard patriotic British circuits, between this and Watkins, they're my 2 favorite North American circuits. Yeah.
You know, I think for a lot of Americans, you won't find Barber, or probably you won't find Sonoma near the top of that list. And you know, from the races I've called here in real life, and for the most part the races in the virtual world as well, passing can sometimes be difficult because you don't have a lot of long straightaways here at all for the draft to really take effect. But the other piece of this, you know, and I think obviously this is going to be very much the same at any race course when you go off track, but you can see it here at Sonoma. There isn't a lot of grass. There is a lot of, much like Laguna Seca, a lot of sand on the sides of the track, and it sometimes finds its way onto the track surface. But it is very, very easy once you get to the very edges of the track surface to find a loss of grip, and it can definitely send the car off in directions that you don't intend for it to go.
Well, let's not forget, though, Greg, that we saw last time at Barber an incredibly difficult circuit to pass that. These guys managed it. And not just 1 or 2, there was a fair few in there, and even tracks that it's easy to pass at. Golly, we've seen overtakes in absolute abundance. So I've got every confidence in them, and we can see they're from qualifying right now. Incredibly tight, close times. It just brings about that pack mentality and that battling that we're going to see. And I tell you what, one driver I'm really looking forward to see right off the back of this victory in the SRF Weekend Warriors at the weekend, Wang Lin. It's going to be an interesting one to see how he gets on tonight. And yeah, again, I think he's going to be one to watch.
Well, he's coming off that win in the Weekend Warriors this past weekend, also taking our win in Spec Racer Ford at Barber just a week ago. And so I think that's a good segue, Tim. Let's go take a quick look back at our Spec Racer Ford battle at Barber just a week ago, where we had John Vogel on the pole. We had Greg Mack starting second. We had Charles Vaccaro, Jordy Fike, and Josh Justice. That made up your top 5. And right off the bat, when the green flag flew, we had Josh Justice. He made up 2 positions, moved up to 3rd position, up to 3rd place on the opening lap. But on lap number 2, it all went wrong for him. He went wide coming out of turn 3 and went for Mr. Toad's wild ride through the grass coming up to the corkscrew. And by the time he finally got the car under control off in the grass, he now found himself all the way down in 10th position. And Wanshi Lin who was our winner. And pardon me, Lynn was not our winner in Spec Racer Ford last week. He won in Spec Miata last week. Wanshi Lin, he found himself up in second, but all the while, John Vogel was able to just separate himself out from the field. Lynn made a great run at it at the very end of the race, was making up lots of time as Vogel's tires had very obviously went away. There's John on track right now, coming out of the carousel up towards turn 7, and Vogel told us in the interview afterwards that he had no tires left, but he still managed to hold on to almost a 2-second advantage over Lynn at the line. Jordy Fike beat out his teammate Greg Mack for third, and then Josh Justice managed to work his way up into 5th place. So we'll talk a little bit more about Greg Mack and Jordy Fike after we come back from our break after this race. Very interesting times there. But I think most importantly now, let's take a look at the point standings. And again, this is the last regular season race in Spec Racer Ford this season, and things changed greatly after our round at Barber, primarily because Morgan Burkhard, who was our championship leader coming into Barber, did not race, nor did Kayla Patrick. And so things now are incredibly tight, and I mean, I couldn't begin to do all the permutations on how this could work out for the championship. But John Vogel, currently your championship leader with 70 points, he has a 1-point advantage over Lynn and over Justice, who are both tied at 69 points. That's a tie for second. And then just back from there, Jordy Fike and Charles Vaccaro are currently tied for fourth with 67 points. So they're only 3 points off the championship lead. They're only 2 points off of that battle for second. Morgan Burkhard, and here's the sob story and the sad story. Morgan Burkhard, who had been your championship leader coming into last week's round, now finds himself in 5th place, and he's not out of it. I mean, there are a lot of things that could happen to move him up to back into the championship contention, but he is currently 15 points out of the lead.
He's looking a bit cut adrift, isn't he? To be fair, Greg, it's not impossible, but the odds are ruining that missed opportunity, isn't he? Really, but he's going to be starting from not quite everyone across the line, Greg, but putting himself in the best possible opportunity. But you know full well that the likes of Lynn and Vogel are going to be on Justice, even he's at the moment starting quite far down the field compared where we normally expect to see him, but he's going to have them hunting him down. He's going to have a target on his back, and can he hold on? Well, he needs the win to stand any chance, and then just hope and pray to the racing gods that things work out behind him.
All right, and so we just had Beans Forster in the 231 machine and John Vogel complete their last flying laps, and for Vogel, perhaps he's going to be starting on the second row, so not going to be all that bad for him. But neither Vogel nor Forster improved on their last flying laps, as you mentioned. Qualifying is now complete. We'll have our drivers report to the grid here in just a moment for the pace lap. And I think obviously we talked about the 160 or so feet of elevation change here, Tim. Probably the big one though is between turns 1 and 2, the 120 feet of elevation change. And I mean, it makes, as you said, for great tight racing here at Sonoma. So we should have our starting grid. I think we've got one car still out on track temporarily. And I will say is very interesting, Tim. You'll notice that the curbing here at Sonoma is blue and yellow currently, and it was actually changed a couple of years ago after the track was repurchased or was purchased by a new company. The president of the raceway is a graduate of the University of California, Berkeley. Those are the Golden Bears, and their colors are blue and gold. And he personally requested to have all the curbing painted in his favorite university. University's colors. But let's go. We'll start and run down the starting grid here. I'll pick up tonight's first race, Tim, where we've got Morgan Burkhard. I think we'll call him from Team All Sports Racing on the pole in the number 40 machine. Pole setting time 1:43.161. Starting right next to him on the outside, last week's second place finisher, and as you said, coming off of his win in the Weekend Warriors just 2 days ago. Wan Chi Lin with Beans Forster starting in third. John Vogel, our championship leader, starting in fourth. And we've got John Wilson driving the number 82 machine. He will start fifth tonight with Charles Vaccaro, also in that championship battle, starting in sixth. Jordy Fike from Team Esports Racer, once again, I think for the third race in a row, going to be starting right next to his teammate, Greg Mack, there in row number 4. And then we've got Stevie Ray, the Ray in Ray Esports Racing. By the way, birthday boy today. Congratulations, and everybody wish Stevie Ray a happy birthday. He's going to be starting 9th with Deacon Greenfield right next to him in 10th. Josh Justice starting in 11th position, and Justice, sitting third in the championship, or actually tied for second in the championship right now. 11th position is not where he wants to start out, but he's going to have Joaquin Effinger as a row mate starting in 12th. John Casey will start 13th today, and on the outside of row number 7, we've got Mark Sherman. Wayne Buttermore will start 15th this evening, with Stephen Blethen rejoining us here this week. He is going to start 16th, and we'll see if he makes the grid right now. Looks like he may be starting from the pit lane, Tim.
Just like to say congratulations to Steve Ray on his birthday, and a man frozen in time because apparently he's 21 again this year.
Yes.
Amazing how he manages it every single year. A good shout out to him that, but for me, you're talking about turn 1 with the highest elevation change here, Greg. For me, it's not quite as steep, but it's almost like driving up through the corkscrew at Laguna Seca in reverse.
Exactly, in reverse, exactly. I ran a 5K running race here at Sonoma and had to go up that hill, and it dictated my pace for the entire rest rest of the 5K. About 4.2K was all predicated on how much I had just gassed out going up that initial hill. But as our drivers are now making their way through the carousel here on their pace lap, let's quickly talk about our sponsor for tonight's first race. You can see their logo there up in the top right-hand side of your screen. It's Spec Racer Sports, who for the 4th season in a row is with us here on the Ray Esports Racing League, and they have a single mission, and it is to help fuel yours and your addiction to road racing. They feel that the way to accomplish this is by providing exceptional customer support, the parts and services that you need when you need them at a fair, competitive price. Spec Racer Sports currently stables Spec Racer Fords and offers them as rental cars at Motorsports Ranch Houston, and they provide access to the track for a rental or a test drive. In addition to new car sales as well, they have storage and support. A complete complement of technical services such as chassis dyno work, driver coaching, and fabrication are also offered, and of course at very competitive rates. To find out more about Spec Racer Sports and their services, check them out at specracersports.com. And with that, Tim, we've got the pace car leading the field now down into, and it looks like we may have lost Tim. We've got the field now heading down into the hairpin here over at turn number 11. And just one more quick little bend there to turn 12, and they'll be on their way here in a 20-minute battle to the checkered flag, our final race of the regular season. Of course, we will have our runoffs in 2 weeks, and the checkered flag is in the air, and Morgan Burkhard, our pole sitter, cuts across the traffic, coming through turn number 1, and as they head up the hill towards 2, Lynn, he's going to slot in the second. John Vogel side by side, door to door with Beans Forster, but Vogel's going to have to drop now back into fourth position where he started. Charles Vaccaro right behind him. Then a bit of a gap back to Wilson in the number 82 machine. Then the Team Esports Racer driver, Jordy Fike. He's got Stevie Ray and Greg Mack just ahead of him. So move Fike now all the way back to ninth. He loses 2 positions on the start here as Burkhard now leads the field down out of turn number, down through turn 5, down that sweeping left-hand carousel where things will then straighten out. But again, really short run here. You don't get a great amount of draft in these cars as you come down towards the double apex right-hander of turn 7. And looks like to try now to sneak underneath John Vogel is Vaccaro, and Vaccaro is going to get past John Wilson. So the number 82 machine now falling back in the 6th spot. But all the while, with that little bit of a battle, our top 3 drivers, Burkhard, Lynn, and Forster, have now separated themselves out by about 6 car lengths. Actually, maybe a little bit more than 6 car lengths. Might be closer to 10 car lengths as they come out from behind the drag tower, that high-speed turn 10, that little kink, as they come down into the hairpin for the very first time. And of course, the drivers have to be very careful. You see those big stacks of tires. In real life, they move. In virtual life, not so much. They might as well be cement. So you really have to be cognizant of them. Not so much at the beginning of the race, but certainly as the laps wind down. And Dennis, doesn't look like we've gotten. Doesn't look like Mr. Cox has reappeared. Maybe he's swimming the English Channel or something right now. All right.
Yeah, so that might be. He might have to be. He might be doing just that, swimming on his way over here, because
that's right.
He's definitely disconnected.
All right. So hopefully we'll have Tim back in a little bit here. Hopefully before the interviews. But let's see here. As Burkhard now and Lynn have separated a little bit from Forster as they come through the carousel on lap number 2. Again, these are 20-minute sprint races, and already we're seeing that 3-car breakaway. But Charles Vaccaro, who just a few moments ago was all over the back of the number 4, John Vogel, our championship leader. I think it's, as we take a look at where we stand in the championship right now, of course, John Vogel, he's got that big target on his back, Dennis. Wanshi Lin ahead of him. If Lin even finishes where he is right now and can finish ahead of John Vogel by 2 positions, he will take the championship. And of course, we've got Vaccaro and Justice, who are sitting right back behind Vogel as well, in lines for a championship. But at this point in time, Wanshi Lin, he is in the catbird seat as far as this championship goes.
Yeah, he's looking pretty good. He doesn't really have to race Morgan. He just needs to stay with him, maybe let him pull him along. Yeah, he's got the right spot.
Yeah, exactly. He doesn't have to fight for the lead again, as long as he can stay. And going around is Charles Vaccaro. Vaccaro running currently tied for 4th in the championship. He spins around. He's going to fall now all the way back to 13th position. He's going to slide in behind Joaquin Effinger. So
that's a shame. Yeah, he was running really well. Let's take a look. He's been running really well this whole season.
He has, and as he comes through turn 1, and you can see he got a little bit of the curbing right at the apex of 1, Dennis. And
I saw it. Yep.
The rear end just kind of walked a little bit on him, and it threw him off coming up the hill, and he just could not get the braking done for turn number 2. And so there you go, Charles Vaccaro now back in 13th position as we jump back to the battle here for the lead with Morgan Burkhard and Wanshi Lin. And and perhaps, Dennis, with Vaccaro falling off the pace now, because it looked like Justice wasn't necessarily, or probably John Wilson wasn't necessarily able to keep up with John Vogel all that well. And Vaccaro was acting as a little bit of a bridge there. We may find now, and you can see here where the 82 machine coming down into the hairpin is already about 6 car lengths back from John Vogel.
Yeah, I don't think he's got the same pace the last lap by. He was about 7/10 slower, so.
Yeah, and I think what we're gonna watch is now that Vogel doesn't necessarily have to worry about John Wilson or, you know, for that matter, Charles Vaccaro. If he can bump his pace up a little bit, he has the opportunity to get up to Forster. But I'll tell you, that last lap, Forster was 0.8 of a second faster than John Vogel was. As we jump a little further back here, and great little battle going on right now. We've got Greg Mack, Jordy Fike, the two Team Esports Racer drivers, and then we've got Stevie Ray, representing, of course, the Ray Esports Racing League, and Deacon Greenfield there in the 36 machine. He's not that far behind these three gentlemen here, as we are currently working lap number 4 in this 20-minute battle, just about 6.5 minutes in.
Last lap by one, she ran the fastest lap of the race, 43.51. So he doesn't look like he's just trying to take it easy, which is all he needs to do. But once you get in the, you know how it is, once you get in the car.
Yep, the red mist hits.
Exactly, yeah. The visor comes down, and you don't see a whole lot else.
Oh, and a little bobble there from Burkhard as he came through turn 10 back behind the drag strip tower. And Lynn moved over just a little bit. I don't know if that was more of a precautionary evasive maneuver.
I think it was, yeah.
Yeah, or because he didn't really, he got back behind Burkhard almost immediately. He wasn't going to try to late break him, but now Lynn goes around the outside, coming through turn 1. That is definitely the long way around. Maybe Burkhard is starting to feel a little bit of the pressure, maybe getting a little bit defensive this early on, as both of these drivers now running in the 43s, and Forster's pace has fallen off just a little bit. He's about that last lap about 0.6 off the pace of our two leaders. And it looks like a little bit further back in the pack, I think Joaquin Effinger's had some issues, and he may have gone off track.
Let's take a quick
As
look.
has John Casey. Let's take a look and see if we can pick this up. And this is coming into turn 7, so a fairly safe area. Although if you don't get the braking done, well...
Yeah, that looks like hardware or something, or...
Yeah, the car looked somewhat off, even coming out of the carousel and making that run up there.
Yeah,
but,
like his screen went blank for a second, or, you know, something like that.
Yeah, just the way the car pretty much just angled for the grass. That's not something you'd normally see under heavy braking. All right, a little bit of a change here, as Jordy Fike now has fallen back behind both the Stevie Ray and Deacon Greenfield. So move Ray up into 7th, move Greenfield up into 8th. Fike now back in 9th, and he is still in that fight there. He's not all that far off, but you know, we were talking a little bit about Jordy Fike and Greg Mack last week at Barber. In both of our races, both in the Spec Miatas and the Spec Racer Fords, the two drivers were pretty much one. Well, they were in Spec Racer Ford running 2nd and 3rd, and when they got together. And it turned out, I was talking a little bit after the race with Jordy Fike. We thought that Fike maybe had just misjudged, made a late move going into the hairpin at Barber to try and outbrake Greg Mack, as he had been sitting behind Mack from the drop of the green flag to 10 minutes in. And it turns out that Fike was actually trying to defend against Josh Soto, who had started at the tail end of the field in Spec Miata, and had just passed Charles Vaccaro. Oh, and speaking of passing, now coming into turn 7, side by side, we've got Wanchi Lin and Burkhard. Maybe a slight tap there, a little rub, but no harm, no foul, as they now come into the S's, still side by side. And, you know, this might let Beans Forster get back into the battle, because this is definitely not the fast part.
I don't know.
Of the track.
If I was Morgan, I think I would have let him go and just slide it right back. This is just slowing him down.
Yep, and Burkhard manages to work his way back around Lynn, but perhaps Lynn just took that advice. Although Lynn takes a look to the inside, coming down into the hairpin, but it took half a track. But we'll see what the differential is at the line here. And I think we may have Mr. Tim Cox back with us. There we go. And again, side by side coming across the stripe, heading up the line. And indeed, that last time through with both Lynn and also Burkhard going side by side through the S's from turn 7 all the way down towards turn 11 at the hairpin. Beans Forster almost 0.6 of a second faster than our 2 leaders.
Morgan was in the 45s. I mean, wow. That it's just...
I mean, what an absolute classic this is turning out to be, really, isn't it? It's... I mean, my internet couldn't cope with the anticipation and the excitement, the build-up, Greg. They decided to fall over, and who could blame it, really, with the action we're seeing out on track?
That's, I mean, that's what I would have done. I mean, but I didn't. So it's good to have you back here, Tim. Is once again for the second lap in a row, both Lynn and Burkhard are going to be coming down into turn 7, door to door, side by side. On the previous lap, we had Lynn to the outside and Burkhard to the inside, and then they swapped over. And now we see where Burkhard does the over-under. And again, through the S's, side by side. And Tim, as we had talked about just a little while ago, you know, Wanshi Lin would be best to just kind of sit back and bide his time and let the race unfold, and you know, and perhaps look at a pass on Burkhard if he makes a mistake. But now, with 2 laps of flag to flag or line to line battling, Beans Forster has made up almost 5.5 seconds, and he is now in the battle. But I think almost as importantly, you can see now both John Vogel and also John Wilson, and Wilson's closed things down considerably on Vogel, but they are now starting to make up ground. And remember that Lynn does need to finish 2 positions ahead of John Vogel in order to garner enough points for the championship.
For me, the interesting part is what is Beans Fawn's play in this story. Is he going to pick both their pockets potentially, Greg? That's the killer question right now, where Lynn and Burkhard have been inseparable for so much of the race. And you say about, you know, should Lynn maybe just sit back? Well, the cars aren't real, but the racing definitely is.
Yeah, and so now I was trying to tell the story about Fike and Mac, but the fact of the matter is, and we'll get into it when we talk about the Spec Miata, Greg Mack, who had actually worked his way up to the lead temporarily, Wanshi Lin, who had found his way around, got clouded by his teammate Jordy Fike, and Fike was actually trying to defend, and he didn't realize that when he goes that far offline going into the hairpin at Barber, well, you got about 25% less braking capability. But they're still up in that battle right now. And actually, Greg Mack has now fallen back into 10th position. He had been up in 6th just a few moments ago. But let's take a look at this 3-car now battle for the lead with Burkhard, with Forster in 3rd, and then Wanshi Lin sandwiched right between the 2.
Further down the field, I say, well, Fike and Greenfield, I've keeping half an eye on them, Greg, and well, they're at it once again, side by side into 1.
Oh, and Fike for a moment there tried to come back as he tried to track out from turn 1, almost got right into the back of Greenfield, readjusted, and somehow still managed to carry more speed up the hill than the 36 car did, and gets around him through the rising turns 3 and 3A. And Greenfield spins the car out going down into turn number 4. And that is the sharp 90-degree right-hander. The track just does kind of fall away there. And Greenfield loses the rear end. And so looks like nobody wants to be in 7th position here tonight. Somebody called Kenny Zollner, my good friend, in his I Was 7th video. All right, so here we go as we jump back to Burkhard and Lynn here, working now lap number 9. We have a little bit less than 5 minutes remaining here at Sonoma Raceway in Spec Racer Ford, final race of the season, Tim.
It's interesting because Lynn is definitely quicker through the back end of the circuit, Greg. He's able to really close up into the final turn, but just can't seem to find that distinctive killer move to get the pass done. But this could be it, but he's going to be on the outside line through 1 and 2.
Yeah, but he gets a good run going to the apex of turn 1. Almost every previous lap, Burkhard had defended against him and pushed him to the outside, which is the long way up. But now Burkhard, as we see here, by nature of him being on driver's right, had position coming all the way through turns 3, 3A, 4, as they now head down the hill, and Morgan Burkhard once again regains the lead as they start to make their way down to the carousel. And you were asking what Beans Forster was going to do. I think Forster's just trying, especially as he saw Lynn get a little bit of dirt coming up through turn 2. I think Forster's just trying to be a little cautious here, because he could, the way these two drivers ahead of him are battling, he could end up with both of them.
Lynn's running too deep.
Degrees. And he does. Going into 7, but Forster can't make up. Well, he's right on his quarter panel, though, but that's given a great advantage to Morgan Burkhard to move away. And, Tim, so as Lynn came out of turn 2 to start the sequence, and I think you can probably see it now coming through the S's, the rear end on his Spec Racer Ford getting very, very loose. I wonder if he's run off the rear tires.
The way he's pushing, the way he's losing grip, you see it once again there through 12. When the rear end just lost, and almost a bit of neutral handling rather than necessarily the initial understeer and then a bit of a kick of oversteer. But he's losing heaps of time to Burkhard, who's absolutely loving this right now. And I get the feeling it's only time before Beans Forster makes his way past Lynn, unless Lynn can just bring those tyres back to him. But time's running out fast. He's only going to have about 2 minutes left on the clock and change.
Oh,
and this is advantage Burkhard.
And Lynn, I don't know if it's just that he can't get the car rotated, got a little sloppy there going into turn 3, and got a ton of grass, went 4 wheels over the curbing. As I know you want to straighten some of these corners to make up ground, but that was perhaps not the way to do it. Let's see, he takes a very late apex coming through the carousel, as many people will do. You typically find a lot of different lines through that section of the track. And he's made up a good portion of the ground now coming into turn 7. But even there, Tim, if you saw, he almost had to, Lynn had to make 2 separate steering inputs to get that car turned in. It's as if the first little bend that he tries, the front end doesn't go anywhere and the rear end does not rotate around under trail braking. And then he has to dial in a lot more steering.
I've surmised it nicely there, Greg. He's really, really wrestling the car, but despite this, he's closing back up onto Burkhard once again, and Forster dropping back now. But as we've seen before with Forster, he's made up that big gap of around about 5 seconds. When these two start battling and going side by side, Forster comes instantly back into play. And as the clock's ticking down, Greg, is Forster going to get a bit more advantage? Is that the white flag in the air? I do believe it is.
It is. We are on the last lap here at Sonoma for our Spec Racer Fords, and the championship is on the line. All Wan Chi Lin needs to do at this point is to hold station, but he is definitely not having any of that. He is going for the win on what is looking to be a fairly ill-handling car as they come now down through turn 4, make that run down into the carousel. They're going to have a tiny little rise here, and then the car will just drop away. And again, Lynn side by side with Burkhard as they come into the carousel, and for the moment Lynn manages to get around the number 40 machine. And will he then be able to hold the line coming down into turn number 7? Lynn's going to be forced to the inside, maybe a little bit of a tap there as he tries to open the corner up a little bit and get a more advantageous run through the double apex turn 7. And for the first time here tonight, Tim, Wan Chi Lin is your leader coming into the section of the track, but Burkhard with a great run, driver's right, as they now again come through, and Burkhard sneaks back to the lead. And with Beans, Forster thought he had a run on Lin. He thought better of it, got back in line, but he might still have an opportunity here for second.
He may well too, or even potentially the win if these two are slow out of the final turn, Greg. Here we go.
And Lin has to enter the corner from the inside. Beans Forster shoving the car all the way down to the inside, though. Can't get a great run out of the corner. And as they come around the final turn, turn 12, Lin jumps to the outside to try and get by Burkhard. Cannot get it done. Morgan Burkhard takes the win tonight in round number 8 here of the Ray Esports Racing League. Wan Chi Lin, he's going to finish second. Beans Forster comes home in third. John Vogel comes home in fourth, and I believe he is, by nature, coming in fourth, going to probably end up second in the championship. John Wilson, he's going to come home in fifth. Stevie Ray, great run for the birthday boy. Stevie Ray is going to finish sixth. Jordy Fike will come home in seventh. Josh Justice will finish eighth. Greg Mack works his way back up to ninth, and Deacon Greenfield will round out the top 10. Wow. So Lin, I mean, with 3 laps to go, Tim, it looked like Lin just did not have a car that would even make it to the checkered flag. And somehow he worked his way around Morgan Burkhard. And, unfortunately there for him at the line, couldn't take the win. But I believe Wan Chi Lin's going to come home your champion in Spec Racer 4 this season. We've got both Beans Forster and Morgan Burkhard in the interview room. Why don't we bring in Beans, driver of the number 231 machine, finishing third tonight at Sonoma Raceway.
Beans, welcome along. Wow. I mean, those guys battling in front of you, Burkhard and Lin, really allowed you to make up a mammoth amount of time and come and join the party. Did you think there was a chance of maybe nicking a second or a third?
So when they were battling, I was about 2 seconds back. And when they first started battling and they went 2 by 2 on the second half of that lap, I gained an entire second on them. So I knew there was a chance. And on the last lap there, coming around the corner, I was almost on the inside of Wan Chi on the exit of the hairpin. But I just got a little bit of wheel spin in the back, so I had to lift the throttle just a hair. And I think I almost could have had him.
I noticed as you came into that final corner, you really went for the late apex, ran it a bit deeper, tried to get the car straight as soon as possible. But it's just so good, that little bit of wheel spin. I mean, it did seem a little bit like you were getting boxed in throughout the previous laps. Was that pretty much the case where you just weren't able to get the runs because you were getting boxed in with either Burkhard or Lin?
Yeah, for me, it was kind of hard once I was that close to Wan Chi or Burkhard. It was really hard for me to actually see my apexes and my braking points all so well because the butt of that car just took up my entire screen. So I kind of sometimes went a little too deep on the brakes and just had to kind of take it calm through the corner. But yeah, that was awesome. That was so much fun.
I looked an amazing racing, but congratulations. Podium here at Sonoma, third place. That is Beans Forster.
Thanks, guys.
All right, there you go. Congrats, Beans. Let's now go over to our race winner, Morgan Burkhard.
Morgan, congratulations. And wow, definitely one of your hardest fought victories in this championship.
Yeah, that was awesome. I mean, fighting kind of tooth and nails ever since the halfway point. That was good fun. Wan Chi, I trust Wan Chi. He's great to race against. So it was just kind of put it all out there and see what happens.
Of course, coming into this final round, you knew that you had to win basically to stand any chance at the championship. Was it just give it absolutely everything you got, or was there a bit of tactics of just trying to play a little bit safe at times to try to secure that win rather than go for broke?
Well, it's the whole kind of mind games thing. I got a lot less to lose than Yonshi does in this championship, so it's kind of I can take more risks than he can and still come out okay. So I kind of used that to my advantage and pretty much just went all for it.
Wow. at the end, it came out with the result that you wanted and you needed. Our victory here today. That's Morgan Burkhard at Sonoma.
Thank you.
All right, there you go. Morgan, congratulations on the win, sir. And I've just done the math, Tim. And indeed, Wan Chi Lin is your Spec Racer Ford Season 6 champion, 90 points to 87 for John Vogel. As there's the way we assign points in the Esports Racing League, it is, let me pull it up here. It is 25 points for first, 21 for second, 18 for third, 17 for fourth. And so there you go, as Lynn made up, basically finishes 3 points ahead, as he made up 4 points during this evening's race. All right, so what we're going to do, we're going to take a quick little break here. We're going to get ready for our final race of the evening, the Formula 4 race. But if you like what you see here tonight, if you like that first race and you enjoyed the action, please go ahead and give us a thumbs up. And if you haven't done so already, please subscribe to Apex Racing TV here on YouTube and click on that notification bell so you can find out about all the great virtual motorsports action we have. You can also find us on Twitter, on Instagram, and on Facebook by searching just one word, Apex Racing TV. And so we'll be back in just a few moments from Sonoma Raceway with race number 2.
Are you struggling for consistency in your sim racing? Does your iRating look like a roller coaster? If so, we have good news for you. The way to get more consistent is to first understand what you're doing differently than the professionals. And VRS is the answer. With our competitive subscription, you will have the telemetry, setups, tutorials, and everything else you need to fully analyze your driving. Our data packs and the ability to compare your driving with the best in the world will show you exactly where to adjust your inputs, change your driving line, and shave seconds off of your lap times. And our powerful and precise Direct Force Pro wheelbase and precision pedals are being used by some of the world's best drivers. All these champions agree that VRS hardware is not just the best on the market, it's also priced well below the competition. So if you're looking to upgrade to direct drive and the best pedals in sim racing, VRS is your answer. If you want to get better, get faster, and make it happen sooner rather than later, you owe it to yourself to find out why so many people are switching to VRS. You'll be so glad that you did. Visit www.virtualracingschool.com and learn why the best use VRS.
And welcome back to Sonoma Raceway for week number 8. And this will be coming up round number 5 here for our Formula 4 cars. I'm Greg Ginsburg along with Tim Cox as we are getting ready for our second race of the evening. We've got our drivers now about halfway through qualifying here in Formula 4. And, Tim, I was talking a little bit earlier, I think as we got ready for race number 1 about the gold and blue curbing at Sonoma Raceway, which, of course, I think probably bored everybody to death. But interesting to note here that if you go to speedwaycharities.org, you can actually buy pieces of the berm from, and actually the turn 12 berm at Sonoma Raceway, and it all goes to charity. So if you want, again, that is speedwaycharities.org. And you can get a little piece of, I don't know, you could call it history. I don't think it is, but a little bit of the curbing from Sonoma Raceway. But I'll tell you, the same site, maybe a little bit better reason to go there. I always talk about the woolly weeders, the sheep that Sonoma Raceway has on site to help cut the grass there, and they go anywhere from about 650 sheep in the winter to about 2,500 sheep during the summer. Well, they're running a neat program, a neat charity program at Sonoma called Adopt a Sheep, and it's running until the end of the year. And they say basically you can bring home your own Sonoma Raceway sheep by symbolically adopting a sheep through a tax-deductible donation to the Sonoma chapter of Speedway Children's Charities. If you choose to adopt a sheep, you essentially would be paying for a week of groceries for an underserved family, 2 nights of safe refuge for a family fleeing domestic violence, and also basic essentials for a foster child. So again, a very good cause. If I hear of somebody adopting a sheep here tonight, I will promise to never talk about the woolly weeders again during our broadcast. But you can go to speedwaycharities.org. Or if you want to find out more about the program directly, you can talk to Courtney Kaiser at Kaiser, C-K-I-S-E-R, at speedwaycharities.org. All right, so I'm going to get off my little soapbox there quickly, Tim. Let's take a quick look here. I think we already talked a bit about that MX-5 race with Jordy Fike and Greg Mack getting together. Turns out that Wanchi Lin took the win at Barber by 1.6 seconds over Josh Soto, who started out at the very back of the field, worked his way up to second. Charles Vaccaro came in third. Then we had Jordy Fike, then Greg Mack, as both of those two drivers had recovered from their little getting together midway through the race. Sean Hayes finished in 6th. He had Sean Hayes and John Casey. I just want to mention those two drivers. We don't show them on air a lot, but we did show them a lot at Barber. They had a great race in the Spec Miatas at Barber. I think they were side by side for about 19 out of the 20 minutes there. They came in 6th and 7th. Wayne Buttermore finished 8th. Effinger and Mark Sherman 9th and 10th. And if we take a look at the points, it is 80 points right now for Jordy Fike in Spec Miata. Morgan Burkhard, who again did not race, is 5 points back in second with 75. Then we've got Kayla Patrick, his teammate, who also did not race, with 72. Wanchi Lin only another 2 points back from there with 70, and then Beans Forster 62 points, sitting in 5th, and he's only 1 point up on Deacon Greenfield, who's sitting in 6th right now with 61 points. But more importantly, let's talk about Formula 4, where Kayla Patrick took the win, and looks like some of our drivers having a little trouble here with the whole wheel-to-wheel racing thing here and open wheel racing here in qualifying in Sonoma, as we just saw. Looks like Wayne Buttermore and another driver get together. But the last time the Formula 4s raced was at Mid-Ohio. 2 weeks ago. Kayla Patrick taking the win over Morgan Burkhard by 8 seconds. Then Beans Forster was another 10 seconds back from there. John Vogel finished in 4th. Tyler Campbell finished in 5th. And I'm taking a look to see if Campbell is here running. Campbell typically comes out for our open wheel races. I don't see him out for qualifying right now. But if we take a look at the championship standings, not quite as close as what we see in Spec Miata or as we had in Spec Racer Ford coming into tonight. Morgan Burkhard is your points leader currently with 97 points. Kayla Patrick 30 points back with 67. John Vogel 61 points. Jordy Fike with 56, and Deacon Greenfield rounds out your top 5 with 46 points. And we see there Kayla Patrick, he's looking to join his fans, I guess, there on the outside of turn number 1, going up through the grass. Either that, or he's looking for the woolly weeders himself. Tim, I don't know.
Well, I was about to say exactly the same thing about the woolly weeders. One of the things that the driver's suffering with on track right now, Greg, I think that's why there's a few of them getting a few issues, is these IR04 cars, to give them by the proper names, or F4 cars as everyone calls them, are a bit prone to lift off oversteer. Now, what's lift off oversteer? When you turn into the corner, if you get out of the throttle, what happens is the rear end starts to come around on you, and with these big camber changes and elevation changes that you experience around Sonoma, that only compounds the issue. Now, those issues will start to move away as the tyres come up to temperature, but when they're cold, for the first 2-3 laps, it's going to be a bit tricky for our drivers, especially in wheel-to-wheel combat.
Yeah, and we've been seeing that a lot through here, especially as the drivers let off. And I think one of the big corners that is an issue is right there at that kink at turn 10, where the drivers maybe for a little bit of confidence, they need to get out of the throttle. And you see there, even though there isn't a lot of camber change there, if anything, probably more problematic for them because the track is very flat there and somewhat low grip. So when they get out of the throttle, the rear end has that want and need to walk around on them. So we'll definitely continue to watch this. We have seen a number of drivers running off here, I think, and we see there another driver coming out of turn 3. I think probably the corner where we're going to see the most issue here, Tim, is probably turn 4, which is that 90-degree right-hander starting to lead down towards the carousel as the track really just drops away from you. And you know, as the drivers are on the brakes there, and it's definitely a very difficult transition from gas to brake and back to gas. As the checkered flag is now out on our qualifying session. Last flying laps here, depending on where the drivers are on track, the last flying laps should count. And currently, Kayla Patrick is your provisional pole sitter by about 0.3 of a second. Burkhard, Greenfield, Moriescu, who had been our early standard bearer, he now sits back in 4th. And I think the drivers that are on course right now, we're watching Josh Justice. He's currently sitting 13th in the order here, as he's going to try to work his way back up. Hopefully maybe get into the top 10 as he comes towards that finish line. Let's see if he can improve. He does, but he only moves up to 12th position, leapfrogging Stephen Blethen. But a tight, a strong field here this evening, Tim. As you know, we talked about Patrick and Burkhard. Moriescu has been running very strong in the F4 cars. And Stevie Ray making a run at it tonight after his Spec Racer Ford race, running a second race this evening as well, sitting in 10th position.
A good qualifying for him, Ray, isn't it?
Yeah.
Someone who don't tend to see in the F4s,
No.
but it's going to be interesting to see how he gets on. I mean, clearly from that initial raw pace, either there's been a few practice laps going in, or he's one of these, you know, sometimes you just click with a car, Greg, and that could well be the case for Ray here this evening.
All right, well, we'll see here as we should have the starting grid here. And Tim, take it away.
Oh, it's an absolute pleasure. Kayla Patrick starts on pole with Morgan Burkhard alongside him on the front row. Deacon Greenfield has Moriescu joining him from company on the second row, with Schuler and Beans Forster on the third row grid. Pendergrass, he's got Vallejo alongside him on the fourth row, with John Vogel and Stevie Ray lining up your top 10 and the fifth row of the grid. Geordie Fike, he's got Joshua Justice with him. And then we have got Stephen Bleffen and John Casey, with Wayne Buttonmore and Mark Sherman taking up to 16th place. Greg Mack even has Russ Lundberg with him for company on the ninth row of the grid. And that's going to round out your 18-car grid here today at Sonoma.
And good to see Russ Lundberg back with us here tonight. It's been, I think, almost a full season since he's raced with us. Russ, a flagger, a corner marshal with the Sports Car Club of America, and I believe from the Atlanta region. So glad to see him back with us behind the car, as we are still waiting for the last few drivers to grid up here, waiting on Schooler, Forster, Vogel, and also Mark Sherman. And it looks like there they are as they get on board. I think Beans Forster, we're still waiting for him to come to the grid. But while we're waiting for the rest of the field to fill in and the pace car to start bringing them around, let's talk about tonight's sponsor of our second and final race, and that is Alliance Autosport, based in Columbus, Ohio. And they found success both at the club and professional levels, garnering multiple championships, including 8 SCCA National Championships, 3 SCCA Pro Racing Championships, as well as a USF 2000 National Class Championship. Alliance Autosport's team members are dedicated, hardworking, and they know what it takes to win. Alliance's SCCA Enterprises Great Lakes Division customer service representative for FE2 and Spec Racer 4 Gen 3, and their services include arrive and drive packages for Spec Racer 4 Gen 3 for FE2, and also if you like a little more horsepower to go with your on-track action, Trans Am 2 as well. They offer customer car prep, trackside support, transportation, storage, part sales, data analysis, hospitality, as well as driver coaching and development. To join Alliance Autosport on the winning track, check them out at allianceautosport.com.
Wow. Greg, it's going to be treacherous, as I was alluding to earlier, on these opening laps with those cold tyres. I think we're going to see people either making up quite a few places or losing
quite a few. Yeah, we didn't have much drama during the opening of the Spec Racer Ford race, but as you were saying that, Stevie Ray was giving a little impromptu drivers meeting while the cars were already underway, and just as you were saying it, he was mentioning that the drivers' tires were going to be cold, and that they should be very cautious during the opening lap. So we'll see here if they heed his advice or not, or if it turns into disaster when the drivers all get up to the crest of turn number 2.
Greg, just keep you updated. Beans Forster and Mark Sherman haven't made it to the grid. Let's jumble things up slightly in the midfield as well. With already, it's going to be a few drivers already gaining a few places before they've even begun. But hopefully they'll join us from the pit lane, maybe looking to avoid opening lap issues with other drivers and pick their way through the field and the carnage. That remains to be seen. I know for myself, when I tend to start from the pit lane, hoping to avoid any issues like that, it's a clean getaway, and I end up 20 seconds behind the rest of the pack with nothing to show for it.
Well, I think that may be the case, because I've just seen Forster and Sherman swap positions 3 times on the pit lane. So they're getting ready. All right, pace car is now in. Kayla Patrick and Morgan Burkhard have the field, as Patrick, driving the red number 198 machine, takes the green flag. Burkhard right beside him. The drivers spread out to the outside there, as Pendergrass now moves all the way drivers right up against the wall. And as our drivers come up the hill, already going off, it is, I think, Geordie Fike going off, as well as Giancarlo Schooler. We also have John Vogel, who's gone off, the number 11 car. That is Stevie Ray. He goes off as well. Kyle Vallejos in the 35 goes off. And we're just waiting to see if Sherman and Forster rejoin here. But there you have it, Tim. Half the field not making it through turn number 2 as both Patrick and Burkhard start to separate from the rest of the field. Deacon Greenfield did manage to continue. He doesn't quite have the pace of our 2 leaders as he comes through the carousel. Let's take a look at the mayhem, Tim, as our drivers came through turn 1 up the hill towards turn 2.
We had 2 wides, we had 3 wides, and all it took us, especially in these cars, a tiny bit of contact, and around you go, collecting other drivers. 7 cars littered across turns, well, 1 and 2, pretty much.
Yeah, it looked like, and I think that was the the 4 of John Vogel that got a little tap of the wheels, left front to right rear. With another car going up under braking into turn 2, and then as he tried to move away from that car, there was another car off the driver's right. That and again, I don't know for sure if it was John Vogel there, but a little game of pinball, and you can see what it has done to the field here, as both Patrick and Burkhard now with almost a 3.5 second advantage, actually running closer to 4 seconds now over Deacon Greenfield. And then another 6 seconds back to Tom Pendergrass.
Oh, swings up to Casey. Oh, he's around at 2. That's not going to be helping him at all. He was locked in a good battle with, I think it was Stephen Bleffen at the time, and it's all come down around him. But big shout out needs to go to Wayne Buttermore. Already up 9 places, yeah. Greg.
There's a lot to be said for being cautious, and Wayne Buttermore in the right place at the right time. And as we take a look at the replay there, what happened to John Casey, and it looks like Buttermore has now made up another position as he's gotten around Theo Moriescu. So Buttermore, there he is in the blue and green number 73 machine. He is now running 5th, having started 15th this evening, and it looks like he's got that car pretty well hooked up, as Moriescu's I think had a little bit of a bobble a couple corners ago, looking to make up the ground on Buttermore right now. And I think Wayne just gonna either he's very defensive, or I think he was trying to let Moriescu through, and Moriescu ended up coming through turn 10 and going off into the dirt.
It's intriguing stuff as always in these cars. We've had great close racing, well, across all the series, to be fair, but yeah, we've had some really memorable moments out of this portion of the championship, Greg. And, well, not failing to deliver right all the way up to the latter stages of the season.
Yeah, they have not stopped from week 1 on. As we're watching this great little battle here as Moriescu worked his way around Wayne Buttermore. Now Buttermore looking to defend against Josh Justice in the 99 machine, and Justice, I believe, is from Northern California. I believe he may call this his home track in real life. He is a Spec Racer Ford racer in real life. It's Justice now shooting down the inside, and looks like he's going to get that pass done on Buttermore, as Buttermore now finds himself in 7th position. That's not a bad place to be given where he started, and that pack right there, Moriescu, Justice, and Buttermore, they've got a pretty good gap. Back to Stephen Bleffen, who is now up 5 positions into 8th, and John Vogel right behind him in the number 4 machine. As Vogel's going to come down to the inside, looks to the inside, goes deep on Stephen Bleffen, going into the hairpin at turn 11, and manages to get the pass done. I think Bleffen there really opened up the doors. Oh, as Morgan Burkhard now goes around, and this is coming down the hill, going into turn number 4, coming out of turn 3A in the 4. Let's take a look and see what happened to Morgan.
a feeling where he's pushing so hard, Greg, that he's just going to lose the rear potentially. There you go. Ooh, not a little bit later in the corner, and looked like he managed to hold it, but then just eventually the car gave up and he ran out of adhesion and unable to save it. But Kayla Patrick now, well, if I was a betting man, Greg, I'd be, well, I wouldn't get very good odds, but putting any money on Kayla Patrick for the victory here is definitely looking like it's going to return you well.
Yeah, I think that would be a safe bet at this point. Where he stands, and in the championship right now, Burkhard with a 30-point advantage over Kayla Patrick. So Burkhard now running in second. I think certainly looking safe to hold on to that championship lead. Again, the final week for our Formula 4 racers will be next week at Virginia International Raceway, where they'll definitely have a chance to open these things up along that very long back straight up Madison Avenue here. But as we watch John Vogel, who is still in that little battle with Stephen Blethen. Blethen has not been on the iRacing platform for the longest time. His brother Ray, his twin brother Ray, has for a number of years, but I think Stephen's just gotten into it in the last 3 months or so. A very accomplished road racer and touring car racer in real life here in the States, showing himself pretty well here tonight, making up 4 positions in this race. And I think the last race at Mid-Ohio was his very first Formula 4 race on the iRacing platform. So he's picking up the pace rather well.
He is indeed, and that real life racing experience definitely transitions across into the simulation world, and you see so many real life drivers apply that knowledge, know-how on car control. Maybe not quite as easy for them, of course. There's no seat of the pants feel in the sim world, even with the very best of equipment. I mean, maybe the top end motion rig, but even then, still nothing like being at one with the machine underneath you and feeling exactly what the tires are doing, the suspension's doing over every little bump in the track.
Oh gosh, yes. Yeah, and I'll gladly admit it. That has been my problem from day one, moving back into virtual racing, is I can't get the feel that I have in the race car. And there are so many little additions that you can add, to perhaps give you some of the sensations. Maybe it's putting a shaker into playing the bass sounds to give you a little bit of that feel in the seat of the pants, but in the end, when the rear end of the car starts to walk around on you, there's no substitute for all of the many different inputs that you would have in real life, and being able to feel, depending on the type of car, being able to feel what each corner of the car is doing at any one time. But it's certainly there are many drivers that can, they can get the feel of it and they can drive without all of those inputs. But of course, we also see the virtual racers get into the real race cars and really shine as well, even without the years of experience.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the most long-winded answer to why Greg Ginsberg is awful at sim racing.
It's just one of my many excuses.
Return next week for excuse number 74.
That's right, and it has something to do with woolly weeders, I'm sure. Here we go, as John Vogel and Wayne Buttermore once more, and Buttermore gives up the inside here, but he's going to follow Vogel right through, and Vogel runs, he doesn't run wide, actually takes a pretty good exit coming out of the hairpin there, but Vogel chopping the exit off, but not losing a lot of ground to the number 4 machine, as Buttermore now finds himself in 8th position. And I've been in races like this. It reminds me of a race that I raced in, I think it was 2008. God, I sound like an old fart now. It was the American Road Race of Champions at Road Atlanta, and I think I started 7th or 8th out of 30-some cars, but we went up the hill towards turn 3 on the very first lap, and the 2 lead cars got together right at the apex of 3, and everybody ahead of me was, you saw nothing but tire smoke, and I had just enough room. You never want to intentionally take a car into the grass because you just don't have a lot of traction there, and you can't always guarantee, how you're going to come out of it. But I somehow came out of the other side of turn 3 in second place. Once everybody got back up and running, it was one of those things where I was obviously out of position. I'd qualified about a half a second to 3/4 of a second back from the drivers that are ahead of me. And I spent the entire rest of the race trying to hold everybody off, as I'm sure Wayne Buttermore is feeling right now, as he starts to have all those drivers that had problems at turn 2 on the opening lap starting to cycle back around. But he's putting up a good fight. Not driving the most defensive race, but as the heat came into the tires for him, he's showing that his race pace is maybe a little bit better than his qualifying pace is.
Definitely seems that way right now, and he's locked in this battle. But even so, still really holding his own. So our joint highest position gainer now with Greg Mack. Both of those drivers on 7 positions gained, although that was helped largely by the big incident we saw on the opening lap, which claimed so many casualties. I mean, just retirements alone from that one incident. We lost 5 cars in terms of Schuler, Vallejo, Ray, Sherman, and Sherman and Forster unfortunately not making the start. So truly only 3 of them, but even so, it's a big way to make up some places, and an easy way. You got to be there to take them, Greg. You got to be there to take them.
Absolutely. Yeah. If you're not in the right place at the right time, sometimes sometimes it'll work out for you, sometimes it won't. As they come out of turn 10, as Blethen takes a look to the inside on Wayne Buttermore, but I think he realized fairly early on that he was not quite close enough. Now, Buttermore, you can see they're coming out of the hairpin. He does go a little bit deeper on entry, but it does not let the car track out nearly as much as most of the other drivers do, and I think it affects his exit speed all the way down, and which then affects his speed coming into turn 1. But able to hold off Blethen for now.
Really strong, solid defense right now from Buttermore. He's got himself up into 8th. Desperately, obviously, had climbed slightly higher up into 6th, but he's lost those couple of places to Justice and Vogel, and now desperately trying to prevent losing even more. I think that's Justice plus Moriescu.
It is, as we've got the 99 and the 31, and there we go. Moriescu now gets the position back from Josh Justice as they come down through the S's.
It's a bit of a tricky corner 7 to get the move done. You've got to carry so much more momentum. As I'm going to see a replay of it right now, and there you go. It was that slight little twitch there from Moriescu that just allowed Justice through. But wow, so Vogel through even and able to reclaim it, where he's just able to carry that bit more speed out of the corner.
Yeah, it's so tough there, that double apex right-hander, and a lot of it is because the track is so flat there, and then it actually starts to drop away at the exit. You can't very well, you can get to that second apex with no problem, but you don't have a lot of visual markers for the exit of the second part of the corner there. There's a lot of open track there. There are a couple of little lines out there that are just painted down on the pavement seemingly willy-nilly for no real reason, and it's not uncommon to completely miss your exit on coming out of that second half of 7.
Right. Talking of that, Moriescu, he's out. Something's happened to him out on track. I spotted he dropped a couple of places. I lost a bit of time, but
well, let's take a look here as they come through the S's, and they're going to come up towards that turn 10, that really, really fast kink. And yeah, well, there you go. Coming out of turn 10, and he puts himself right into the cement barrier right behind the drag strip building. And you know, we talked about trouble spots early on in the before the race started, Tim, and that is certainly one of them. Is Moriescu could not keep the car on track.
The cars, you know, being loaded up in one direction, then the other. As you come, well, pretty much on the exit out of 7, you're constantly moving left, right, pretty much all the way through to the exit of 10. And it's so easy, especially where if you nick those curbs just at the wrong angle of where you're turning the car in, it ends in absolute disaster, and you just purchase yourself a one-way ticket to the barrier, which is what we've unfortunately seen there with Moriescu.
Yeah, so we are now, what are we running? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 drivers now retired. Yeah, and you know, you're going one way to the other, and you can see here with the constant turns, it looks like Deacon Greenfield having some issues over at turn 7. But also, you know, as I've been listening to the drivers come through 10, they are definitely lifting. And for some of them, Tim, it's not a gradual lift, but a almost coming completely out of the throttle lift. You know, kind of like the kink at Road America. There's not a lot of runoff room there, and it's not that hard to unweight the rear of the car and send it around.
It's not. Then you've got this double jeopardy, as I was talking about earlier, where these cars are prone to lift off oversteer, Greg. Yeah. And when you get it wrong, there's, as you said earlier, there's very little runoff area as well, and it's so easy for it to go wrong in a big way. And that's the thing; it either goes wrong in a big way or it doesn't at all. There is no middle ground here at Sonoma in these cars. And that's part of the reason why we've seen a couple of incidents from some of our drivers.
All right, so we're tracking right now with Morgan Burkhard, who had that early spin, never fell back from second place. He's made up about a second on Kayla Patrick, and both drivers are running very comparable lap times, both of them in the low 130s, lapping almost 2 seconds faster than any other driver. Oh, it looks like Wayne Buttermore has a bit of a moment there coming out of turn 2 going into turn 3. But Kayla Patrick, who I believe should be coming by the start-finish line. Yeah. Oh, well, there you go. I was wondering what happened to Buttermore. Buttermore was there trying to avoid Stephen Blethen, who had gotten crossed up going into turn 4. Another one of our trouble spots there. Maybe another touch of lift-off oversteer.
Say about trouble spots, this track really is fraught with danger. It looks innocent and calm and not too complicated, but once you start getting into the track, it's a real challenge for drivers and cars. Coupled with, we have got, of course, as you would expect, relatively high track temperatures here, which makes it an additional challenge for our drivers. You know, over the 100-degree mark, it's really not helping them, especially in these latter stages of the race here, Greg. They get 114 track temperature alone.
And a lot of that has to do with this track is basically built into a mountain, and it ends up radiating a lot of the heat. The ambient air temperature, not very hot, only about 77 degrees. But with a lack of clouds and you know, the way this track is built into the land, it really heats up the tires here, as Kayla Patrick is now coming through that very tough turn 10 and making his way down into the hairpin. And when he comes across the stripe, he will get that white flag. One more lap here from Sonoma Raceway for Kayla Patrick, who has led from the drop of the green flag. Here we go, basically a minute and a half, and Kayla Patrick can rack up another win here in the Esports Racing League.
I daren't say anything, Greg, because I daren't put the curse of the commentator onto it. It's been flawless so far.
Far more often than I have.
I have, yes, exactly. Certainly. I think something's happened to... Oh, no, I think he's just dropping connection now. I was a bit worried something happened to John Casey, but he's okay, luckily. But not long left now for Patrick. That's 2/3 of the lap. think we'll be home.
See that very early apex for Patrick coming down through the carousel. Many of the drivers will wait much longer to do that, but let's take a look as he comes through turn 7 here, as he stays away from the apex, but you can see there as you've got that little bit of curbing almost mid pavement, and then you've got the actual exit curbing, drivers left, but he absolutely nails it here as he comes through. And let's look at the onboard coming through that high speed turn 10 right here. It doesn't look like much behind the wheel, Tim, but when you track that car from the outside, you can see the rear end just walk around. But Kayla Patrick, clean final lap, problem-free final lap. He's going to come around onto the front straight. Kayla Patrick all by himself, taking the win over Morgan Burkhard and the rest of the Ray Esports field. Morgan Burkhard finishing second, 7.5 seconds back, coming home in third in a great run. I don't want to curse him yet. Don't want to curse it yet. He's trying.
He's over that checkered line.
That's right. He's weaving and bobbing so much, I think he forgot that there was a final corner, but he makes it across the line. Deacon Greenfield, he's going to come home third tonight from Sonoma Raceway in the Formula 4s. Tom Pendergrass, he will finish in fourth. Josh Justice in the number 99 machine, he comes home in fifth. And where's everybody else? Ah, there we go. There's somebody. It's John Vogel. John Vogel coming home in sixth. And the rest of the field here coming in as well. Let's do this as the rest of the field filters through. Tim, we have now actually our top 3 finishers. Deacon Greenfield, Morgan Burkhard, and Kayla Patrick. I think we got a few moments here. Why don't we bring in first Deacon Greenfield, driver of the number 36 machine, your third place finisher tonight in Formula 4.
Deacon, welcome along to the commentary booth. One of only 3 drivers to not gain or lose any position. You know, finishing where you started. Obviously, the opening laps, there was a big incident. Did you see it in your mirrors?
Yeah, I did. Very excited to be here. Worked very hard to be here. It was certainly a little scary. So I had about both my half left side wheels off track, and then I saw Theo loop it. And once I saw the gap behind me, I really just put the pressure on to just be consistent and bring home a podium.
Well, it's an absolute treat. I mean, I'm guessing you must have been putting in a fair bit of practice to, because safety is, ensuring you stay on the tarmac around here is so crucial, because, as you say, get it wrong and it goes wrong in the bad way.
Yeah, I felt really comfortable tonight in both races. So I made an effort to keep that, and my goal for tonight was consistency. So I'm glad that paid off.
Wow, it more than paid off with the podium as well. Absolutely, congratulations to yourself. That's Deacon Greenfield, who picked up third here today at Sonoma.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Deacon. All right, let's move on now to Morgan Burkhard, driver of the number 40 machine, and currently, I believe, your championship leader coming into the final race of the season.
Morgan, congratulations. I mean, overall, across the 2 races, I mean, you can't really argue with a win in the second, but that spin that was the defining difference between yourself and Caleb ultimately.
Yeah, we had some pretty identical laps after that. And I have learned that new track, new car, I should probably do practice before I jump into qualifying. So, yeah, it was fun. The car is a lot of fun here. It just sticks. All the Formula cars are. It's just, it's a very unforgiving track, and you hit a curb wrong, you put a wheel off in the dirt, and it just keeps going. So, lessons learned.
Well, you say about, putting in practice, I mean, it's equal terms. It is a way to strike fear into your opposition by admitting that you've done no practice whatsoever and still were vying and, battling away for the lead. Being, other than that spin, I mean, what were going to be your long-term tactics playing out the race? Were you going to look to leave it as late as possible and then go for something on the final lap, or just try and get past Caleb as soon as possible?
Well, I was thinking about just as soon as I got a good enough opportunity, it would have to be kind of low risk. I'd have to get a really good run out of a corner and be alongside before the braking zone. But just get in front of him, start battling, make him kind of wear out his tires, make mistakes, and hopefully we get something out of it. But it's not the kind of track, not the kind of car, not the kind of track to leave it to the last laps, because it just takes so much preparation and planning to get the move done.
Understandable. That's Morgan Burkhard, who picked up a second place here today in the F4 race.
All right, thanks so much to Morgan. And finally, let's bring in Kayla Patrick, our winner tonight in Formula 4.
Caleb, I mean, the history books will show that it was a really comfortable win for yourself, but up until when Morgan had that spin early on, it felt like, at least from up here in the commentary booth, like you were starting to feel the pressure maybe a little bit.
I mean, it definitely was close, and it took me a couple laps to really kind of get the hang of the car. But once I got into a rhythm, I was all right. But certainly his spin helped take the pressure off, and I was just kind of able to maintain the gap after that.
I mean, you weren't far off the clean sweep. You had pole, obviously the victory, led every lap, but just narrowly missing out on the fastest lap. Was it ever in your mind to try and push to have the full set?
Not really. I mean, there are a couple times that I really started to try to push the car, see if I can go any faster, and then it would just kind of break loose on me. So I was just mainly doing what I could to manage the gap and just make sure he didn't catch back up.
That's completely understandable. But I mean, ultimately, walking away from here with a win, regardless of if your opponent spins or not, it's got to feel good, surely.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, leading practice, qualifying, and the win definitely feels good.
Definitely, and we'll look forward to seeing you in a week's time. That's Kayla Patrick, your race victor here today in F4 from Sonoma. Oh, apologies. Looks like my colleague has managed to put himself on.
Oh, how about I unmute myself? There we go. Yeah, new systems, new problems. And so there we go. I want to thank Kayla Patrick. And so, as we take a look at the championship standings here with the very last race for the Formula 4s next week at Virginia International Raceway, Kayla Patrick made up a couple points on Morgan Burkhard, but still about 25 points separating those two drivers in the championship, with Burkhard still your championship leader. So wrapping things up here tonight, great two races here, but next week we are, as I mentioned, going to be wrapping up the regular season, wrapping up season number 6 of the Esports Racing League. We're going to be at Virginia International Raceway, as Paul Newman called it, heaven on earth. We're going to start off the evening with the Formula 4s. They will be our first race up, and they will have their 6th and final race of the season, and then we'll be wrapping things up with Spec Miata later that night. Now, that is not going to end season 6 for us, however. In 2 weeks, Tim, we're going to be heading back to a track that has not held a national championship in the longest time, Summit Point Raceway. We're going to be heading to West Virginia, just outside of Washington, D.C., where we're going to have our Season 6 runoffs with a 25-minute race for each of our 3 classes, for the Formula 4s, for the Spec Racer Fords, and also for the Spec Miatas. And so, for Tim Cox, for Dennis Branch, I'm Greg Ginsburg. We'll see you next Tuesday night, 9 p.m. Eastern Time, from Virginia International Raceway. Have a great week, everybody.